Hello, it's Griff, and I'm here in Humboldt Redwood State Park. Let me show you. Look how beautiful it is. I'm at the Look Prairie. We just did prescribed burns. Oh, you can't really see it because the sun's blasting it out, but it's such a beautiful prairie. And it was burnt like a month or two ago, and the grass is growing. So I told you guys I was going to try to do live on Tuesdays, sometime between 2 and 4, and here I am. And hopefully you can hear me. I see some hearts, so I think that people can hear me. Some of you looked at the title and you went, Griff, Turd on a Twig, a love story. But yeah, Turd on a Twig, a love story. It's a love story you guys are all familiar with. Because normally, on non-COVID holidays, we have this plant hanging above our head called mistletoe. And mistletoe, in old Anglo-Saxon, means turd on a twig. So you're probably wondering, how did mistletoe become this cultural tradition of kissing? So I'm going to tell you the story, and then I'm going to tell you about how Turd on the Twig, a love story, began. And then I'm going to tell you why it's one of my favorite keystone species, meaning super important species to everybody else in the ecosystem. Why it's one of my favorites, okay? Because it's super, researchers, we don't even understand mistletoe totally yet, and I'll get into that later. So long time ago in Scandinavia, there was a super hunky dude named Balder, okay? Some people were jealous of him because he was pretty badass, he was cool. So his mom was the goddess of love and fertility. Her name was Frigga. And she loved her son so much that she went around to every plant and every rock and everything, and she was like, you'll never harm my son. You will never harm my son. And she blessed everything and made sure it would never harm her son. But she forgot to bless mistletoe, turd on a twig. And Loki, and you guys remember Loki from the Thor movies? Loki, the mischievous god, saw this. And so he got mistletoe with his trifling self and made it into an arrow and shot Balder through the heart and killed Balder. And Frigga was super upset. She cried and cried and cried and cried. And the tears came out like white pearls, but they're actually berries, and they landed on the mistletoe. And that's how come mistletoe has these white, sticky berries. And so she cried so hard, the other gods were like, wow, she is really upset. So we're just going to, oh my God. And they're like, wait a minute. Oh, we're gods. We're gods. And so they resurrected Balder. Balder came back. Ba-ba! And so then Frigga was like, we're going to turn a bad situation into a good situation. And we're going to make mistletoe, turd on a twig, a symbol of love and peace. And every time you go under it, you have to embrace anybody, even your enemy. And that mythology traveled on and on and on, got incorporated with Christianity and Christmas and all that kind of stuff. And now we're kissing under mistletoe when there's not COVID. That's the story of how turd on a twig, mistletoe, became a example of, or the cultural significance of kissing. So those of you who are late to this, turd on a twig, is the Anglo-Saxon word for turd on a twig is mistletoe. So that's what we're talking about, is mistletoe. So mistletoe, and there's some in this tree, but it's so high up that you can't up here. So mistletoe, there's like over 1,300 species of mistletoe. It's way up there, and you can't see it on the camera. So I climbed all the way up there and got you this. And you guys are like, you did not climb up there and get that for us. We don't believe that. Okay, well, just pretend like I did. And it's a terrible example of mistletoe, but it's one of the 1,300 species of mistletoe all around the world. And you know what the name of the order of this is? Okay, get ready. The name of the order that this belongs to is Santalales. Santalales. But it's a coincidence that it's related to Santa. Like, Santa is sandalwood. It has nothing to do with Santa Claus. But Christmas, isn't that weird? Isn't that it was meant to be or something? I don't know. Anyways, there's 1,300 species, and they are parasitic. Okay, they don't kill their hosts usually, but there's a lot of things about that scientists don't know about this. As I started digging deep in here, I was like, nature is so interesting. Nature, I mean, you can't just look at a picture of nature and realize how interesting it is. You have to go explore it, and then you have to do research, and then you find out. It's great. It's like a club. Like when I was in my 20s, I used to go to clubs, and you can't tell if the club is cool by looking at the door. You have to go in and like have a drink and listen to the DJ and dance around a little bit before you can tell if the club is cool. And it's the same thing with nature. You have to like look deeper. You have to go inside and explore. So for example, I'm not going to get too deeply into this, but this is one of the only organisms, multi-celled organisms in the world that doesn't turn food into fuel for cellular respiration. Okay. You're like, I don't know what that means. Don't worry about it. Just know this is crazy. Okay. So this is crazy. If you want to look into it, Google mistletoe doesn't respirate. Okay. It's one of the only things it doesn't. Another crazy thing about this is sometimes it absorbs the genes of its host plants, and it's not just landing on every tree. You notice you only see it on some trees. So all these species of mistletoe, most of them are obligate species. So they only like certain types of trees. So if you don't have that certain type of tree, you don't have mistletoe. Okay. Also, tons and tons of animals eat it, but it's toxic to humans. But we'll get back to that in a minute. So a lot of birds eat the berries, and that's how it gets around. So berries, a lot of berries that are small, it's because they're meant to fit into birds' mouths and stuff. So these are really, really sticky, and they're at the very tops of the tree. So you can kind of see why English druids thought that they were dropped by the gods, because they landed in the tops of trees. Okay. Anyways, so the birds eat this, and it's super sticky, so it gets stuck on their beak. And so then they go up to the tops of trees, and they're sitting in the twigs, and they wipe their beak, and it gets the seeds off, or it goes through, it's indigestible, the seed's indigestible, but it still comes out sticky. So when they poop, it sticks to branches, but sometimes it gets stuck to their little feathered butts, and they have to they have to like twerk on the twig to get that seed off. And that's why mistletoe is called turd on a twig, because birds have to like wipe their booty to get the sticky stuff off. So from the berry of the mistletoe. So mistletoe is interesting also because it has these evergreen clumps. A lot of birds nest in it because it's a great place to hide from predators and hide your young from predators. And part of being evergreen in Northern Europe was why it was saw as a fertility symbol, because a lot of things in Northern Europe were deciduous, but you'd look at the trees and there'd still be mistletoe. So that's why they really thought it was imbued with some special powers. And it is ecologically. It's eaten by lots of different animals, insects, mammals, birds, okay? It provides this great habitat for things to hide in, and this complexity. You need complexity in trees. So when you look at mistletoe, oh, it's bad, we got to cut it out. No. Leave it. It's interesting. Get some binoculars. You don't want sterile trees. You want trees with complexity, and mistletoe. It's super cool. And so even in Australia, they have mistletoe in Australia, and they wanted to increase their biodiversity. So they had a mistletoe planting project to increase biodiversity. It's a keystone species. Okay, super cool and toxic. Now, it's toxic, but it's also medicinal. We've been studying this plant for a long time, and we're now injecting it into tumors, and it shrinks tumors in humans, and it also relieves some of the symptoms of cancer. Mistletoe. Now, if that's not a reason to stand underneath of it and give someone a kiss, I don't know what is.